Okay, it's live.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining. I think that this is a security meeting. I think it is the first for a while, right? Because I think that the last one was not activated. So before we start, does anybody has any announcement? Okay, good. So here we have in our working group meeting links, we have refocusing the ecosystem security working group on OpenJS Foundation project. I think that this issue is pretty old. I don't have any context about that. So if anyone have something to share.
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, like, back before sort of the meetings petered out, there was a discussion of whether the security working group within Node could kind of refocus on OpenJS projects, maybe move up as a working group or team or collaboration space under the OpenJS Foundation. So that was kind of the context of that one. I think, given that, and I don't know if people like, Ulysses and Vladimir have the context, but like we've gotten funding from the Open SSF, so the Open Source Security Foundation. And basically that's, supporting Raphael's work. So we have more time, he has more time to focus on security related things, and we'll be, working on improving processes in the Node.js project, looking at the security model and driving a bunch of that work. So I personally think that, at the node level, with that drive, it would make sense for him to use this group to, share what he's doing, get feedback on the processes, and, have broader, be the venue for broader involvement from the project in that work. And so maybe it makes sense to keep the, the effort at the node level. There's also separately, Joe is going to champion a collaboration space at the OpenJS. So that's kind of where maybe like keep this one with the focus on like, okay, here's the things that the OSSF is supporting the project to do, and Raphael's driving that, and, discuss that here. And the bigger OpenJS focus or whatever could be done in that other collaboration space. So I think back to your question, Raphael, I see a bunch of nodding, and you could probably close that one out, and just, we'll move on to focusing on things that are related to the work you're pushing forward.
Okay, yeah, I don't have, I still don't have permissions to this repository. So if you can close.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm closing it, don't worry.
Okay. Thank you. The next one is just adding me as security working group member. Not too much to share. If anyone has any restriction, let me know. So so now we have two points to discuss in the remaining list. The first one is the permission model, and the second one is the security model. I suggest to go through the security model first, so then we have a fresh mind to discuss the permission model. So I will share.
Sorry to interrupt, just give me 1 second. If we are all good, I will merge the addition of you in the working group. There is only approval, just making sure that we don't oversee it, and Michael will, I think I can add you in the team, or maybe we need to have an admin doing that.
Yeah, I can add it. Why don't you land? I just commented on the issue saying, hey, it looks like it's good. You just landed it. While we talk, I can add him to the team for sure.
Okay, I just landed it, so green light. Okay. Sorry, Raphael, just wanted to clear that one out.
Okay, no problem. Just pasted a link here in the chat about the current security model. This is just a sketch document that I was creating to drive this meeting. The idea firstly is to have a security model well defined, mainly to share to researchers, like when we receive reports in HackerOne, or even to the users to understand when they show trust in their code or when they shouldn't. And also, I was talking yesterday with Bradley Farias, and he did an amazing work in the security model. He created a security model in the past and shared it with me. I will share the link with you as well. Let me send right here. It is a full document with a lot of with 12 pages, and I feel that we should for sure get most of his insights to this new security model. The first point that I would like to discuss is his first comment, that is that Node.js does not provide a security sandbox. I was looking to our initiative meeting, it was in April, and we decided that Node.js does not provide a security mechanism, a security sandbox by default. And however, policies can prevent various forms of malicious behavior, but is still I don't think that is still enough for end users. But probably we need to discuss a bit more about it.
Right. In just my one comment about that document is, I think what's in there is a lot of proposing new things, right? Like, I think where we should start is documenting our existing security model, because it's going to be a lot easier to get agreement of this is what it is today. Discussions on how we want to change that or extend that, I think, will be longer and take more stuff, but we'll get a lot of value by saying today, this is our security model, and being able to share that with researchers and reporters. Because when we get incoming vulnerability reports, often it's like, what you're saying is correct, but we don't consider it a vulnerability because of the model we have in our heads, right? Which is, trusted code and so forth. So just want to caution that there's lots of good stuff in that doc, but, I don't think code signing or, a number of those other things are things to talk about in our initial model. Our initial model is, we trust the code. I don't know, whatever else, but like, it's that, look, if the code you ask to run does all sorts of things today, we don't consider that an issue, right?
Yeah, that's the idea of this document. I think that in the Bradley document there are some features, right? You mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, that's the one I was
Okay.
talking about. The one you post, the second one from Bradley, is like, there's lots of good
Oh,
stuff
yes,
there, but
sure.
those should be the follow on. The first one that you have, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, sure. But in this document of the Bradley, we have a lot of problems, which it is not,
Yeah.
might not be problems, but is some designed by default, by default. So we probably need to document it in the security model, the new security model, I would say. So we are in agreement that Node.js does not provide a security sandbox, or we need probably more discussion on this.
I think that's not controversial.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I will just click mark as resolved. Here we have a few topics to discuss. I mean, we have the sandbox, permissions, malicious package, environments, and the treat models. I would suggest to let treat models to the next meeting, because it's a broad topic. And I also think that we are missing several other topics here. So if you have an idea, let me know.
I think you mentioned the Python security model or one of the other.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the Python security model, I did a look on this, and is not full. The document is not well defined, I would say. I mean, we can't take too much things from there. The only interesting part is the environment. For instance, if you use Python for desktop or for other stuff, it contains different set of security mechanisms. But for Node.js, I don't think that it affect in the end. I mean, if you are using Node.js as CLI or you are using Node.js as web server, I think the security would be the same, right?
I think what would be interesting though is somewhere maybe in references or whatever, having the list of ones, like if you found one for Python, if you found one, say, for Ruby or whatever, putting the links somewhere in the references down below, and even us looking at them together would be an interesting way to kind of get some good ideas. Because for me, I've got the challenge of, I don't know if I've seen a good security model for a runtime written down and documented. And if there's a great one, that would help me understand if like what we have here is good or it's not good. And so, if you've got time to gather those links and, say, here's a bunch, and maybe even add your comments, like this one is a great one to look at as a reference, or these are not for some reason.
Yeah, that's fair. So I would suggest to us in the top of the document to at least explain the purpose of this document. Let me add here 1 second. So I feel that this document will be very valuable for researchers, for at least security researchers.
Yeah.
It
The
should be
triage
also
team, I think.
Yes. Node.js triage team.
Just adding some words there that you can change, throw away, or whatever, but
Okay.
Like at a high level, we want context on what will or won't be considered a vulnerability, right?
Yes. How we can describe it, like a FAQ. Security FAQ. Or a security overview, I know.
Some examples, I wonder, I don't know where that fits in, but like they may not all fit into the model. I could see like the security model might be as short a document as we can make it, but then maybe some other references that go along with it that say like, here's some examples of vulnerabilities and why they fit or don't fit the model.
That's
the references to other stuff, but just thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah, you mean 2 documents, the first one just for reference and the second one like a tutorial?
Yeah, like here's just the facts. So you can read the model, and then, but then there's there's a bunch of extra information that would be useful to have, right? We can put that sort of maybe in a separate one.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, we can include also, for example, the documenting the attacks, when we explain, for example, I don't know, what is a overflow or whatever, just to show a simple example of how that happened, or prototype pollution will illustrate a little bit, for those that are not super clear.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Like the security model and the threat, like, I don't know if it's called threat model or something, but like what I had some sort of imagine, which I don't know if is valid or not, but like you got this doc that says, here's our security model. Then you could have something else which has the list of attacks and threats that people think of. Like, so here's a threat, untrusted code, right? Or malicious code. And you could go through and say, well, okay, this particular thing has blah, 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 but this is not based on our security model is not actually considered a vulnerability, right? And then there'd be another threat, which would be, somebody I don't know, like, I don't have that good list, but like, is it compromising the system? Well, again, we don't think that's a vulnerability in for Node because, and then, there would be like being able to cause the Node process to crash through a remote call, right? Oh, well, in my mind, that is a security vulnerability. So like if through HTTP, through HTTP, I can make the node process crash. That's a denial of service. But on the flip side, if I in my code cause the node process to crash by passing it some parameters, that's not necessarily a vulnerability, right? Because the code is trusted to do the right thing, but the HTTP, if we're providing that endpoint externally, that is something where we've got some attack surface. So it's going through those different ones. And so not just, I guess where I was going is not just listing the threats that we think apply, but all of them. And it's sort of explaining, yeah, these ones, why do they fit the model or don't fit the model? And does that make sense?
Totally. So yeah, so for this reason, I think that we should define better the organization of this document to look like a fact. Like if someone wants to know if I load a malicious package JSON or install a third-party library, Node.js will prevent me to be racked or to read my entire files. The answer is not, but where we can see it, where we can document it better, in a easy way.
To be honest,
Go ahead.
I think I would start by the usage of Node.js and go down to what are the risks associated. Like running Node.js on a server, you probably can assume it's in a container and it's not a big deal. For instance, to use Node.js to maybe install a malware, maybe or maybe not. But since the container is going to be trashed, fair enough. But on a desktop machine, someone running Browserify or Webpack, installing malware, a persistent trait, is actually another story. So usually I like to start with product cases and go down to what are the impacts, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because I think the attacks are different in each of the environments. So like, it's like, here's, yeah, I like that the use cases, maybe it's like, here's the different ways Node is used. And then you could say in each of these, like, these aren't even really, whether it's a vulnerability in Node or not, but it does speak to whether or not using Node puts you at risk because of our security model, right? Like our security model may say trusted code is you trust code. Well, as Vladimir says, if you're deployed and you're in a container, well, you've encapsulated what it can get out to, that should be fine, right? If you're running it on your local system, well, maybe you're a little bit more worried about that untrusted code. And
yeah, I leveraging it in consideration. I think that for the short document, we can just create a list of don't do it, like don't install a malicious package, like if you, or at least don't install a package when you don't know what is the precedence or something like this. And then in each of those topics, we go deeper in the topic. I mean, if you are installing this a malicious package, it can handle a lot of things, and it happens because Node.js was designed in this way and this way, and then you can mitigate it in this way. So maybe for at least for end users would be much more easier to read a long list of don't do something.
I think that ends up being like almost a different topic, but related in something that, the project, it would be valuable if the project provided, but like, that's not necessarily directly related to the security model itself, right? Like,
yes.
But I think it's, from what Vladimir suggesting is a good way to sort of think about the environment, think about the threats, and that I think will help. But like, we write those down at the high level, then thinking about what we would or wouldn't consider a vulnerability will help us define what that security model it means, right? And what should be in the security model. And like it's the, if you can do the denial of service through HTTP, that's a yes. What other surface areas would we say yes? And we probably we'll probably expose those by doing that top level thing that Vladimir suggested.
Yeah, makes sense. Just wondering how we can organize the document.
I don't know, Vladimir, does looking at the CWE
Um,
classifications or areas, is that a useful way to start? Or
I was thinking about that. So my 2 cents here would be maybe an intro part describing the usages of Node.js that we consider. We consider that Node.js is used to build CLI that runs on machines, to build local servers that developer run on their machine, and to build web servers that run on servers. Maybe I'm missing one. Maybe we should have IoT in the scope because there is a big IoT scene, but I'm not knowledgeable enough about that. But describing those are the scopes that we take in account, and then going through the CWE saying, okay, so breach of confidentiality in a server environment can be mitigated by that, but on a personal desktop does not exist. Like can't be mitigated is the worst thing you can happen because arbitrary run code execution on the desktop. I remember we had a discussion a few years ago about the debugger listening on all the network interfaces by default. And we consider that the actual threat model for this one was a developer debugging a node service on a public network, because that was actually opening a port that would grant remote configuration to anyone on the local network if they nmap it and find this WebSocket. So that's why I kind of would want to start that way and map capabilities with the vulnerabilities I might open. Like in a way, opening an HTTP server on your own machine on the public network, if you've got something unholy in the code base in the server, that might be opening a door. Is that part of our responsibility as Node? Probably not. Should we document that by default it will listen on this interface? Probably yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that makes total sense to go through the environments and then document the attacks and how you can mitigate it and what is expected from Node as well, mainly, I would say.
Yeah. And as Michael said, the CWE families is a very good starting point because that's industry standard.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to drop off, but I'll leave the rest of you to keep on going.
I have to run to have another meeting starting in 1 minute.
Okay.
Good seeing you, Tim.
See you later.
Yep.
Bye. Just going to make sure that Raphael's the host. Yeah. Okay. See you later.
See you.
Okay.
So let me just document here the new organization document, environment, attacks, mitigations.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, the threat models, I think that we can move it to another document someplace.
I think so. Yeah, and we can document them also a little bit and cover with some examples. I think we discussed it a lot on private chat, but yeah, that can be one option. I think makes sense a lot. To use this in long term, like as a guideline. For security around Node.js as general. With the same as you say before, with the do and don'ts, all of this, so people can have a solid place where check out everything related to my Node.js project is going to be saved more or less by manual. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, That's good. Maybe it's going to be a super big document, so maybe it's a fair point to discuss a little bit on formats and how to make it maybe more accessible to the people. But yeah.
Yeah. So I think that as a to-do, we have to do like a new organization in the document, and also get more language reference, like how is the security model in Ruby and Python. Then we can make the Node.js one similar, but or at least based on those ones. So I think that we can move forward to the permission model.
Yep.
So regarding the permission model, I implementing MVP, and also I came up with a few discoveries, a few questions from folks. The first one is that the permission model would not be widely used in production for two major reasons. Some servers needs to be very fast, very responsible, and also even the permission model will not add a high overhead. It still will be slower than no permission model.
Yeah.
And the second one is because most of the cloud environments use EIM or any permission-based environment, and it wouldn't make sense to use two. For instance, you are in the AWS and you have a IAM role set up for your application, and then you have assurance that this application will is sandbox, is in a sandbox, so you don't need a permission model for that. And so the first thing that I think that we can agree on is that the permission model will be more used for developers. It is not it was not designed only for production environment. You can use in on-premise servers, but I think it will be more valuable for developers. So this is one thing that we need just to make sure that everybody understand. And the second one is Node.js currently has policies, right? You can deny, or at least you can block modules from specific dependencies by using policies. If you, for instance, you have a dependency X and you don't want X to use a HTTP, you can just deny the HTTP module in the policies. This is similar what permission model will do, but I don't think that this is this supersede the permission model, because currently the policies block access to modules, but not access to actions. So it means the permission model will allow you as a other module to require HTTP, but will block you to perform a HTTP request or to open a socket in a specific port. So I think this is different, but I think that we can discuss a bit regarding should we create a new feature or just improve the current one, the policies one, and see how it works. I think that it will be a long discussion, to be honest, but yeah,
it's going to be a lot of technical discussion, I think, maybe because, making more changes, I think making changes on the current core base, I think it's going to be easier to be accepted than implement a new one, probably, but I'm not very sure how it's implemented as well. So maybe it's tricky, but yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be a long discussion for sure.
Yeah,
with a lot of the technical committee for sure.
So for this MVP, I'm creating just based in the James past work, and just blocking the FS read and write.
Okay. Okay. Just to one
do
module, right? We avoid
Yes.
to touch in HTTP. Okay, yeah, makes sense. I think maybe the good strategy here is, you know, try to promote the most simple possible MVP, you know, and iterate it over or discard the idea, you know, as soon as everybody is okay with discarding or passing the idea ahead, you know, so we can have a lot of discussions around and having conclusions soon, I think, because I think it's super, you know, I think the last time they tried to implement these kind of models, I think we failed because it was a, you know, very long discussion and very hard to carry out and very hard to, you know, keep the leadership. So if we propose something easy and not very long, you know, so someone can actually review it in a couple of hours, maybe makes sense to get a lot of input, you know, from many people. That, in the other hand, if we propose something more complex, it will be hard. So if we manage to have a success for file system, we will manage to have the same success for the others, you know. So yeah, I think it's a very, very good idea.
Okay, yeah, totally. So just adding to our document, the permission model. Let me just add here. File is creating an MVP with. I think that I will have something to share in 2 weeks.
Oh, you think you have something to send like in 2 weeks time period from
Yes.
now? Oh,
Yes.
that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, that's fast. Yeah.
Is creating an MVP, probably something to share in 2 weeks. Agreement permission model might not be very useful for cloud production and environments.
Yeah, definitely anyone who can containerize it can have a lot of control. So yeah.
Okay, need some discussion about the implementation. Because it might be used inside policies. I was talking with Bradley a lot about it. By the way, Bradley just sent me a lot of documents that I need to take a look, and probably we have something different to share next week.
Yeah, good.
So I think that's it for now. Probably. So just to summarize, next week regarding permission model, we need to have other language reference to discuss, to model or document, and think about a new organization document, mainly from environment attacks and then mitigations.
Yep.
In this one is not permission model. This one here is the security model. Okay. And regarding the permission model, probably something to discuss in 2 weeks or more.
Yep.
And some agreements and probably more discussion. But that's it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that we can finish our meeting.
Yep.
Thank you, Ulysses. See you in
Thank
2
you,
weeks.